all about faithfully sharing value and exploring great books worldwide. Hi, I'm Sally with Book Talk. Today we're diving into two-generation elderly bankruptcy. Have you ever heard of elderly bankruptcy? Feel free to join the discussion in the comments. This book is by the Japan Broadcasting Corporation, or NHK's Special Program Production Team, known for documentaries on social issues. Previous works we covered, like Society Without Connections, Female Poverty, and Elderly Bankruptcy, all came from NHK documentaries. Specifically, Elderly Bankruptcy focuses on elderly Japanese living alone who face bankruptcy, struggling with tiny pensions, sinking into poverty, unable to afford food or medical care. While making the show, the team found many elderly still go bankrupt, even with children living with them. In fact, living with children can drag both generations into poverty, and this is becoming more common. And Japanese once trusted that hard work in youth, building a family, would lead to a peaceful old age with loved ones, enjoying family bonds. Why has this sense of security in old age faded into an illusion? In 2015, the team traveled across Japan seeking answers. After the show aired, the interviews were compiled into this book. The book has 5 chapters, showing real-life situations of families in two-generation elderly bankruptcy, analyzing causes of poverty, and discussing solutions. Now, I'll break down the book's key points in 2 parts.
First, why do adult children live with parents, and how does this cause poverty?
Second, what causes two-generation elderly bankruptcy?
And are there any solutions?
Okay, for part 1, we'll discuss why kids used to live with parents in the past. Japan was stable and wealthy, with nuclear families common. Kids left home as adults, and elderly parents lived off pensions comfortably.
But recently, there's been a shift. Kids are moving back in with parents.
The reasons boil down to 2: job scarcity and leaving work to care for aging parents. First up, employment challenges. In the 1990s, Japan's bubble economy burst, stocks crashed, the economy tanked, leading to an employment ice age. In many small towns, there just aren't enough jobs for young people. So lots of folks in their 20s and 30s went out to make a living, but by their 40s and 50s, they lost jobs due to the bad economy and ended up moving back in with their parents. Mr. Shonan Yasuoka, 45 years old, is one of those kids who returned in this reverse trend. Shonan's hometown is Sapporo, the capital of Hokkaido. After high school, he left to find work, holding full-time jobs at a butcher shop, a pachinko parlor, and an equipment company. When he was almost 35, the equipment company he worked for went bankrupt. Maybe because of his age, he barely landed a full-time clerk job at a thrift store, where they tracked sales performance. And so, the test. Even though Shonen worked his tail off, the economic slump meant sales tanked. 2 years later, he got fired. By then, he was pushing 40, and forget full-time work. He couldn't even find steady part-time gigs. Shonen signed up with a temporary agency, but all they could offer were day labor jobs paid daily. From then on, he lived hand-to-mouth, doing odd jobs, just scraping by, never knowing what tomorrow would bring. By late 2014, barely hanging on, Shonen decided to move back home to live with his dad. He didn't just make this call to save on rent and bills. For one, Shonen's dad, Ichio Yasuoka, nearly 80, had stroke after effects that left him clumsy, making chores like cleaning a real hassle. Plus, after divorcing over 10 years back, Shonen had sent his little son to live with his grandpa. Now, both the old man and the kid needed care, but shockingly, Shonen's return made his dad's once stable life shaky. Back in his youth, Dad Ichio hopped jobs, running a dry cleaner, laying bricks, driving a taxi.
He worked till 70 before retiring, but during job switches, one company skipped his pension payments. So now he only gets 95,000 yen a month, about 4,700 yuan, just 65% of Japan's average pension.
That money's barely enough to support grandpa and grandson in Japan, so Ichio applied for welfare. Japan's constitution guarantees citizens a minimum living standard. When household income falls below this standard, and there's no savings or property, they can receive welfare assistance. The income gap is covered through welfare benefits paid to the family. Well, not only that, while on welfare, Dad Ichio's medical costs and their rent and public housing were waived, and the middle school grandson got educational aid. But when son Shonan moved back in, his earnings got counted toward household income. Though his income was super unstable that second month after returning, Shonan scored tons of day jobs and earned around 150,000 yen. The very next month, they got a welfare termination notice from the district office. Just like that, the rent waiver vanished, adding 20,000 yen monthly in rent, and the medical waiver disappeared too. As an elderly person over 75, Dad Ichio now pays 10% of medical fees, about 3,000 yen a month, and the grandson's educational support got cut. This meant they also had to cover public high school tuition, transportation, and other costs. Life suddenly got really tight. To save money, son Shonan only buys 200 to 300 yen bentos, less than 15 yen.
Dad Ichio even skips breakfast himself, only cooking it for his grandson.
When money's truly gone, he survives on just one bowl of instant noodles a day.
All right, gotta keep daily food costs under 1,000 yen. But in Japan, a basic bowl of ramen starts at 600 yen. Add utilities like water, electricity, gas. Dad's pension couldn't cover it monthly. Shonan doesn't land gigs every day, so his income couldn't fill the gap. Money's always short. Dad Ichio had to abandon plans for regular doctor visits.
As we said earlier, he suffered a cerebral infarction, a stroke that can relapse easily, requiring regular checkups and meds.
The one hospital trip costs 3,000 yen in fees, plus, since Ichio has mobility issues, a taxi ride adds another 2,000 yen, meaning one hospital visit costs what feeds the family for 5 days, so he avoids going, and even quit the relapse prevention meds. For an 80-year-old man, this is incredibly dangerous. Ichio told the production team that keeping life going is really, really hard. Oh, we worked so hard back then, thinking we'd have a peaceful old age. But young me never imagined ending up like this. Reality's brutal. We've been abandoned by society. Facing this situation, son Shonen feels terribly guilty and works himself to the bone. But circumstances overpower people. Just as the show wrapped filming, he told them his cargo hauling job vanished because the products stopped being sold.
If he can't find work, his income drops to zero.
Now, Shonen's only hope is that the temp agency finds him another gig in time. Situations like Shonen's family aren't rare in Japan. According to Japan's Statistics Bureau, more middle-aged kids live with parents now, many unemployed.
Take unmarried folks aged 35 to 44. In 1980, just 390,000 lived with parents.
By 2012, that number jumped eightfold to 3.05 million, with 10.4% jobless.
In Shonen's hometown Sapporo, it's even worse. Hokkaido, where Sapporo is, has Japan's second highest temp work rate after Okinawa. NHK and Sapporo's welfare officers did a survey of 1,731 elderly households surveyed. 385 lived with kids, 22%. Among those 385, 41% relied solely on pensions. Half had kids with unstable income. These kids' income is shaky, either jobless or without steady work. Some workers, after repeated job losses and rejections, quit trying altogether and became shut-ins. Called hikikomori, many live with parents and lost life skills. Miss Kokegari Kyoko, 65, agonizes over her 38-year-old son. After vocational school, he had a full-time IT job in Tokyo, but faced workplace bullying. 2 years in, he cracked under pressure. Oh, he quit. After that, he tried freelancing, but couldn't land gigs. He borrowed money everywhere, but couldn't keep up and had to move back to his parents' place in Sapporo. When he first got back, his mental state was awful. He didn't talk to the family, and when asked what happened, he just stayed silent. And from the get-go, he had no plans to find another job. He became a hikikomori. It took almost a year for things to get a bit better for him. At Kyoko's urging, he started delivering newspapers, making about 100,000 yen a month, roughly 5,000 won. That money makes it tough to rent an apartment and live solo in Japan. Kyoko couldn't bear to force him out. Besides work and meals, he'd just hole up in his room chatting online, barely interacting face to face. The daughter's situation isn't any better. The daughter, Mayumi Kakeguri, is 36, timid and passive. She's never left home or had a full-time job. She works part-time at a supermarket managing stock, just morning shifts. Her monthly income's lower than her brother's, 90,000 yen, and she can't live on her own either. Oh. And she chips in 30,000 yen for household expenses, but after failing job interviews repeatedly, she's lost all confidence in finding steady work.
Facing this with their kids, Kayoko's 68-year-old husband, Yoshitaka, has to keep working. He can't risk retiring.
Oh, back in his youth, Yoshitaka did technical work in power supply. After 60, he stayed on as a specially hired employee, earning 260,000 yen a month. Kyoko's pension isn't much either, about 50,000 yen. Yoshitaka and wife Kyoko have talked it over. How will they get by on just pensions? They figured if it were just the two of them, welfare might help. But with both kids at home, what can they do? So for now, all we can do is buckle down and work hard, Yoshitaka. He told the show team. The kids are doing part-time gigs with low pay. Wages probably won't rise. Pensions are already tiny and keep getting cut every year. Facing this mess, I've got to keep working. There's no other way. But just like Shonon's family in the first story, before the show aired, Yoshitaka's family hit a crisis too. In July 2015, Yoshitaka was found with blood clots blocking arteries near his heart. If ignored, it could cause a heart attack and be fatal. Fortunately, it was caught early, and Yoshitaka managed his condition with medication. If he'd fallen seriously ill, this family would have likely plunged into poverty very quickly. So far, we've covered how kids moving back with parents due to job scarcity causes a joint economic crisis across 2 generations. Next, let's see how quitting work for caregiving pushes families to the brink. In January 2015, on a cold winter day, a mother and son were found dead together at home in Iwate Prefecture, northeastern Japan. The mother, Sato Mitsuru, was 91, bedridden for years due to illness, and had been cared for over 2 decades by her eldest son, Sato Takeshi. Sato Takeshi, 64, died from worsening severe hepatitis, causing a sudden fatal attack. The bedridden mother probably realized her son wasn't responding and, despite freezing indoor temperatures, struggled out of bed to find him, stopping breathing just 2 meters from his body. The Sato family was once ordinary and warm. Son Sato Takeshi joined a factory in Iwate after high school as a full-time employee with steady income. But nearly 20 years ago, as his mother turned 70, it became harder for her to shop or do chores alone. Sato Takeshi quit his factory job to care for his mother more easily. He took up cattle farming at a nearby ranch so he could check on his mother anytime. His ranch job was stable, earning about 170,000 yen monthly. Combined with his mother's pension, their total over 200,000 yen was enough. But after his mother turned 80, her mobility worsened. She couldn't cook alone, and even toileting or changing clothes became hard to do independently. When he was out, his mother often had accidents like falls or injuries. After another fall, Takeshi quit his ranch job to care for his mother full-time. They lived solely on her pension and a military pension from his father, totaling just 80,000 yen monthly, barely over half Japan's average pension. Takeshi, plus his mother had chronic illnesses like heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure, costing about 12,000 yen monthly in medical bills. His mother received daycare services once a week. Actually, under Japan's long-term care insurance system and his situation, he could have applied for more home care services. Oh, but the mother and son both said once a week was enough. Even though daycare costs just over 1,000 yen per session, about 50 or 60 ron, if they used more services, the costs would pile up. They just couldn't afford that extra money, son. To slash living costs as much as possible, Takeshi always shopped in the evening when fresh food was discounted, and he grew veggies, rice, and loads of taro, his mom's favorite, in a tiny field out front. Oh, friends guessed later that Takeshi might have felt sick months before he died, but he never saw a doctor or shared his troubles with anyone. Friends and relatives only found out about the mother and son's desperate situation after the tragedy hit. And so, in Japan, 100,000 people like me quit or switch jobs every year to care for family. Though some agencies offer home care, elders still end up alone sometimes. 24/7 nursing homes are scarce, private spots are pricey, so families gotta handle it themselves. But quitting work means losing income, so some use services like home aides, daycare, or short stay places to keep working. If care costs are too steep, they cut work hours to do it themselves, income drops more, they skimp on services, kids work less, and care more. It's a vicious cycle. All right, that's it for part one. Kids move back with parents cause of job woes or caregiving, but it sinks both generations into money troubles. So, what deeper reasons cause this lose-lose mess for both generations? In part two, we'll cover this from systems and mindsets. First system reason, the rise in non-regular jobs in Japan. Shigenobu Morimoto is a former official of Japan's Ministry of Finance, which handles fiscal policy. Morimoto thinks the growth of non-regular jobs over 20 years has cut average incomes, making it a big reason families still face elderly bankruptcy. Oh, according to Japan's Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, the average household income peaked in 1996 at 6.64 million yen, about 330,000 yuan. Then it kept dropping till 2013, down to just 5.29 million yen, 1.4 million yen less than the peak.
Meanwhile, non-regular jobs kept increasing and now make up over 40% of the workforce.
Compared to full-time company jobs, non-regular work is unstable and pay doesn't rise with seniority.
At age 19, full-time and part-time workers earn about the same. But between 50 and 54, non-regular workers earn just half what full-timers do.
Plus, as they age, non-regular workers face more layoffs, and after unemployment, struggle to find steady full-time work, trapping them in the working poor cycle.
Or straight up poverty.
In our first story, Shonen living with his dad is a classic example. After losing his job midlife, no matter how hard he worked odd jobs, he couldn't maintain a decent life for his family through sweat alone. During the interview, he was 45, far from retirement, but even manual labor was getting too tough. He'd hurt his back doing hauling work, so you can imagine things only got harder. And in the second story, the adult kids mooching off their parents earned so little from gigs that their elderly dad couldn't retire. Morimoto thinks Japan's social security system is elderly focused, offering less aid to the working age young and middle-aged. But now, due to job issues, younger generations are sliding into poverty. Solving this requires government intervention by raising taxes or such to expand coverage, while boosting welfare for both youth and middle-aged groups. In this book, the show team also suggests strengthening job aid for middle-aged and elderly folks. For example, job support centers in parts of Sapporo are pilot projects by the ministry. Counselors learn visitors' work backgrounds and job goals, use their strengths, and help craft employment plans together. For example, a man in his 50s had worked in tech for over 20 years. After quitting his last job, he couldn't find work in his field for 2 years straight. When he came for counseling, his savings were nearly drained. The counselor noticed that, though his background was technical, His main skills were negotiating with clients and handling complaints. He was great with people. Plus, with that 2-year employment gap, the counselor suggested a part-time parking lot manager job and helped revamp his resume. After starting, the man earned high praise from his boss for professionalism and attitude. He might transition from temp to permanent. All right, after jobs, let's cover the second systemic flaw, issues within welfare assistance. Professor Kimura Mitsuko, a family sociologist at Jose University, believes hardworking kids paradoxically reduce welfare benefits, making unemployment seem better. That's a system flaw. When kids lose jobs caring for parents, the government should provide housing and employment support. In Sapporo, where our earlier stories happened, the team found welfare has flexibility, but recipients often don't know or can't use it. For instance, minimum standards adjust for Hokkaido's harsh climate, family size changes seasonally, and disabilities affect needs. For unstable incomes like Shonan's family, the city adjusts welfare monthly based on earnings. But this requires recipients to personally reapply with documents like current income proof and future estimates. If recipients don't reapply after benefits stop, they lose government aid entirely.
In Shonan's case, this meant his dad Ichio had to submit applications himself.
But with Ichio's mobility issues, taking the bus alone to the district office was impossible.
Plus, he worries his stroke after effects weakened his speech. He can't express his need for welfare clearly.
After losing his hauling job, Shonen found new day labor, but it's far away. He leaves at 6:30 a.m., gets home around 9 p.m., exhausted, sleeps weekends away, with zero time to help his dad apply. So it's been dragging on.
For some families, social workers suggest family separation, moving elders into care facilities alone so they can apply for welfare as single households. While doable in theory, it's tricky in practice.
Take 83-year-old Suzuki Ryu in Tokyo. Suzuki hopped jobs often in his youth. Though he worked hard, he skipped pension payments for years, so he didn't qualify for a pension. He gets no pension after retiring. In Japan, over 1 million elderly like him get no pension. Suzuki owns a 2-story house. He rents out the first floor for 90,000 yen monthly to support the family. He lives with his 2 sons in their 50s. After middle school, they became painting craftsmen on daily wages, income always unstable. After the bubble economy burst, construction work dried up, their income plunged, and the family relied solely on rent. People kept urging the sons to find non-painting jobs, but switching fields at 50 plus is tough. They're lost. The eldest has a back injury and can't do many jobs. 3 years ago, Suzuki's wife collapsed from gastrointestinal bleeding. Before that, she avoided hospitals to save money, enduring pain with over-the-counter meds. After her collapse, social workers proposed family separation so she could apply for welfare and get full medical care. But she refused. She wouldn't leave her sons and passed away 2 years later. She was the family pillar, handling all cooking, laundry, and chores alone. After her death, the 3 men couldn't cook. Suzuki survives on bread, instant meals, and cheap bentos, partly to save money. Oh, Suzuki Ryu even collapsed at home once. So even though he couldn't bear leaving his home of 60 years or his sons, he knew separation was his only option. With a social worker's help, Suzuki moved into a budget nursing home in Tokyo. The place is affordable. He gets hot meals and has a call button by his bed for staff anytime. But with no friends there, he just watches TV all day, filled with helplessness and loneliness. He told the team, "I wanted to stay home till my last breath, but reality won't allow it. Leaving home feels so desolate." All right, we've covered systemic causes of 2-generation elderly bankruptcy and possible solutions. Next, let's discuss mindset issues.
In interviews, the team found many families hide their struggles from officials, relatives, and neighbors.
In NHK's Sapporo survey, of 157 2-generation families living only on pensions, just 12%, 18 families, called their situation very difficult. 52% said tight but manageable. Yet during visits, the team heard many complaints about food budgets and skipped doctor visits. Why claim no hardship while cutting corners? This likely stems from the Japanese reluctance to burden others. Like in our third story, Sato Mitsuru and Takeshi's friends only learned of their struggles after their deaths. Mitsuru actually had 3 sons, yet even her other sons didn't know she and Takeshi were broke. Second son Kaze lived in Tokyo, worked at a transport company pre-retirement, then warehouse gigs to support his family. Elder brother Takeshi knew Kaze's struggle too. Their calls were always encouragement, never his own caregiving hardships. Despite costly shipping, Takeshi sent Kaze 20 pounds yearly of homegrown rice. When Kaze learned of their deaths, he was stunned with regret, wishing he'd visited more and listened. Oh, the team also believes clinging to outdated middle-class ideals makes people hide their true struggles. The Dankai generation, those born post-war, now in their 60s, when they had stable jobs, Japan was in the 100 million middle-class era. Back then, with lifetime employment, 90% saw themselves as middle class, believing hard work guaranteed comfort in old age. But in the last 20 years, Japan's economy slumped and jobs vanished. Yet many still think working harder solves everything, that tightening belts is enough. The team suspects they genuinely believe self-reliance can overcome hardship, avoiding help. But when illness or injury brings huge costs, life becomes unsustainable. Japan's government offers aid like tax cuts and utility discounts for struggling families. Some local governments visit elderly households, singles, couples, or siblings to assess needs. But staff shortages leave little capacity to check on multi-generational homes. Citizens only access these policies if they recognize their hardship and seek help. All right, that concludes part 2. Systemically, rising temp work and flawed welfare make elderly bankruptcy unavoidable even with cohabiting families. And Japan's entrenched middle-class mindset drives concealment over seeking aid. Worse, this 2-generation collapse could cascade to a third. Today, many Bankai, 65 to 69-year-olds, care for parents over 85. Their kids face Japan's toughest post-war job market. Many grandchildren are 40-plus with no stable income, still relying on parents. This mutual destruction of 2 generations may trap 3 in poverty. Solving it demands society-wide effort. So, what are your thoughts after hearing about Japan's 2-generation elderly bankruptcy crisis? Feel free to share your reactions in the comments section. That concludes our discussion of 2-generation elderly bankruptcy. You'll find detailed show notes below the audio. Catch you next time.